Staying friends with an ex who has ripped out your heart has somehow become normalized in our society. The irony is it feels anything but normal. What feels normal is to be with them, next to them romantically, the way things were before. And we only stay friends with an ex in a desperate attempt to keep them in our lives and feel normal again. But when feelings of jealousy or desire come up in your attempt to be friends, you convince yourself that you are the one acting abnormally. And if you can just get over your hang-ups, magically you will be cool and calm and emotionally available when the next healthy opportunity for love comes along. This is a lie that we tell ourselves after a particularly devastating breakup. But it's easy to lie to yourself when your ex is acting like the breakup never happened. They have no self-awareness, trying to remain in the background of your life, free of consequence, because your readiness to talk to them absolves them of any guilt over the cruel way they discarded you. They say that you guys are still friends, but the truth is, friends don't make you feel like you are dying. They don't impulsively ramp up the affection to randomly get you into bed and then treat you like you are crazy when you want more. Friends don't use guilt to make you feel like the terrible way they're treating you is completely justified by their traumatic past. And friends don't make you constantly question if they ever really cared. Today, our friend Nicole asks, is there any way to stay true friends with an avoidant who continues to manipulate you? And if you are tired of feeling sorry for avoidant situationships who only feel sorry for themselves, then grab that bottle of nail polish because we are going to talk about it right now. Okay, let's see what we can do for Nicole today. Nicole writes, "Hi Maria, can you please help me? What do you do when you close and lock the door on someone, but they continue to breadcrumb and pursue you? I'm trying to get untangled from an avoidant man who closed the door on me a year ago, but he won't stop trying to be a part of my life. I believe I have an anxious attachment style, and my fear of people leaving comes through in every relationship. Even with men I don't like, I also don't want them to leave. I am a 36-year-old woman, and 2 years ago I joined a bowling league where I met a 43-year-old man who I will call Tony. We were both dating other people when we met, but he was noticeably handsome, and my brain immediately told me he was out of my league. About 8 months after we first met, we were both dumped by the people we were seeing, and as soon as I announced to my teammates I was single, Tony began flirting hard. Shortly after, we hooked up. We continued to sleep together a few times after that, whenever the league would let out for the night, and in my naivety, I assumed that when we slept together, that meant we had officially begun dating. After about 6 weeks of our weekly hangout and hookup sessions, his behavior became avoidant, and his original excitement to see me was unclear. Finally, one night he came over and I sat next to him and I asked him what he wanted. He said he didn't know, but he knew he couldn't do a relationship right now. I was hurt, and I told him he should probably go home and we should go back to being just friends. He agreed, and I thought it would be fine, but it was awful seeing him every week for bowling, and it was particularly horrifying during the nights he would flirt with other women. I had a front row seat to all of it. Some nights he would give me attention the way he used to. It felt great, and I would go home listening to empowering love songs. One night, on a night where he was being flirty, I asked him back to my place to have a couple of drinks and talk as friends. We hung out on my front porch, talking and drinking until 3 a.m., when I told myself I could hook up and be okay afterwards, so I asked him if I could kiss him, and he smiled and said, "That's a bad idea." He went home and the cat and mouse cycle continued. Right when I would convince myself to detach, it's like he would sense it and work harder for my attention. So now he won't even kiss me, but it feels like he wouldn't let me go. I know my anxious attachment did not help through this, so whenever he would take a while to reply to my text or flake on plans, I would spiral into a ruminative hole, feeling like his attention was the only lifeline out of my misery. Finally, in a desperate act of manipulation, I went out with another guy and posted all the photos on social media where I knew he would see them. He came over to my house that night, drunk, told me he loved me, and for the first time since our original tryst, he slept with me. The intimacy felt good. It felt like I finally won. It seemed like after that night, we were a little more established, but he still refused to say we were officially together. And when he would do things like blow me off for dinner, I would ratchet up my own dramatic behavior. I would do things like packing up his things from my house and dumping them all over his front porch. Or I would find him wherever he was, screaming at him that we were over. He needed to commit, or I was done. If there were times where he was being more consistent with attention, I never wanted to ask him to be official because something told me all he would do was pull away. He never gave our relationship a label, so when he got wasted and slept with someone else, I felt like I had to take it, and I was devastated. I thought we were at least sort of dating. I found out about his one-night stand through our bowling friends, and I messaged him that I was hurt and we needed to talk. He initially agreed, but then he stood me up. So I did one of my dramatic moves. I messaged him that I was done, and then I blocked him on everything. I did not meet for the bowling league that week, and I was told by our friends that he was drinking more than usual and acting shattered by my blocking him. What at first I thought was love, but now I believe was my abandonment anxiety, flooded me with empathy, and I unblocked him and messaged him telling him that we can put things behind us and we can go back to being just friends. We both said I love you. I know Tony loves me. I know he didn't mean to hurt me. Now we are forced to see each other every week because of bowling. He continues to flirt with me, especially when I finally try to pull away. And I've started to feel like I'm most susceptible to his advances when I'm feeling down. Sometimes I can clearly tell myself that he's a dead end, and sometimes the fantasy of winning him over once and for all lifts me up. This is consuming my thoughts and my energy. I feel so much shame and embarrassment. I don't know what to do. Should I quit the bowling league or perhaps abstain from going out for drinks afterwards? I love bowling. I love our friends. I'm trying to do the work to change, but I don't think Tony is willing to go down that road. Thank you so much for reading my question, Nicole. Nicole, I'm really sorry that you're going through this, and your letter hit me particularly hard. I think we have a lot in common when it comes to having a little too much empathy for men who act like they are very hurt whenever we try to stand up for ourselves. And I want to point this out in the very first line of your letter, when you say, what do you do when you close and lock the door on someone and they continue to breadcrumb and pursue you? Nicole, when was it in your letter that the door was ever locked? It sounds like the only thing I can see was that there was one time where you did close the door by blocking him, but then you found out that he was hurt and you unblocked him almost immediately and messaged him. You close the door on him, but you can't lock the door on someone who has the master key. And this guy's tears are the master key. And I'm not trying to be harsh on you right out of the gate. I'm passionate about your plight because I once had an alcoholic boyfriend who would snivel and cry big old crocodile tears to try to make me feel guilty and stick by him. Anytime I finally found the strength to walk away, and situations where men use their pain to manipulate women, it doesn't end well. But let's continue. You say you believe you have an anxious attachment and you're chasing after an avoidant man because he won't leave you alone, especially when you try to pull away. Now, I mean, I don't know him personally. I don't know if he's avoidant, but at the very least, I know that he is ambivalent and selfish. All right. You say here that you both got dumped. You were both single. And then Tony, as soon as he found out that you were single, he began flirting hard. And shortly thereafter, you hooked up. And in your naivety, you assumed that that meant that you had begun dating. And the way that you worded that does tell me that you learned a hard lesson from that. That is a hard lesson to learn. If you've never had anyone care enough to explain these things to you, this is not how dating works. Sleeping with someone does not mean that you are officially dating. I have known people where their relationship started out as a hookup and eventually they became official partners. But I mean, in those, you might as well just flip a coin, right? Sometimes it works out, and in other times you end up with really traumatizing situationships like this that will suck years away from you. So my advice is to just stay away from it completely. Sleeping with people that you don't really know is not worth the risk. Find out a man's true intentions first. And I'd like to take some time to talk to you about this intention that you have, about going back to being just friends. It's like you said, like, oh, he agreed and you thought it would be fine, but exactly, right? The big but. And I know everyone out there who's a longtime viewer of this channel, as soon as they heard me say that this guy said he couldn't do a relationship right now, that was pretty triggering, and everybody here is like collectively, oh no. We know what those words mean. If you've been through it, you know it. And if you have an attachment wound, it is not easy to go back to being just friends. And in your case, Nicole, it is not possible because you said the bowling meetups became horrifying, which is a powerful word. You know, Nicole, last week, I met up with a friend for lunch and it was fun and it was lovely. And I think afterwards I stopped on the way home to buy a lip gloss or something. It was just a really nice afternoon. See how easy that is? But if I told you that I met up with someone and the lunch was horrifying and then I couldn't sleep all night, you'd say, oh my gosh, who is this person? They are not your friend. See how easy that is too? It's always easy when you're not the one in the middle of it. You go on to say it was awful seeing him every week. Again, not how you describe meeting a friend. And then you said on the nights that he would give you attention, you would drive home listening to empowering love songs. And this is another thing that tells me why you are not just friends. You are hooked on the hope that he will come around, and the music that you listen to, you probably fantasize about you being together, that at some point you will win him over, and you are powerful. And Nicole, I hope that you can come to a place where you know you are powerful, whether or not a man gives you attention, whether or not a man sleeps with you. When you have a better sense of yourself, you know that you are powerful all the time. You exist all the time, not just when Tony is flirting with you. Because one week he flirts with you, and the next week he's flirting with other women. You say that it's awful, and I know how that feels. It is an awful feeling. And it's just one more sign that you cannot be friends. When you are friends with a guy, if Tony brought another woman to the bowling league and introduced her to everybody, if he was your true friend, you would be so happy for him. Like, I'm friends with a guy in real life. I see him mainly on social media, and for years he's struggled with women. But lately it looks like he's got himself a gal and he seems really happy. And I am so genuinely happy for him because we're friends. All right, you go on to say that one night he was being flirty, went back to your house for a couple of drinks as friends, and he wouldn't kiss you, and he smiled and said, oh, that would be a bad idea. But it's because he knows exactly how you feel, and you're gonna want more than a kiss. And as he's already expressed to you, he doesn't want a relationship. And it doesn't matter what you try to convince yourself of at 3 a.m. He can feel your energy, and he knows you well enough by now. He knows that a kiss means he's signing up for more with you, because it means more to you. And, you know, because you guys aren't friends. And at this point in your letter, you're not even just friends with, random benefits. But what really confuses me is you say that after this, whenever he would take a while to reply to your text or flake on plans you had together, you would spiral into a ruminative hole, feeling like his attention was the only lifeline. And yeah, because I first want to say, because every time you feel rejected, it's an even more heightened emotional experience when he takes you back, which is why it's so addictive. It's not your fault. You were wired to be attracted to this dynamic, but this can be just as soul-sucking as a life addicted to drugs or alcohol. I mean, he won't kiss you, and you're not really friends. So it's weird because suddenly I go on to read, well, when he does things like he doesn't text me back and he blows off plans, it's like, this is the stuff that's going to make you go crazy, because as we've established, he's not your friend, but he also won't be your boyfriend. So what is he? He's not someone that you should be texting and initiating plans with. I can promise you that. So finally, in a desperate act of manipulation, and you're right, it was manipulation, you posted photos with another guy, and he showed up at your house drunk that night, and you got what you thought you wanted. He slept with you. He even told you that he loved you. And I know that sounds good, but here's a big boundary for your future in relationships. No more being with anyone who will only tell you that they love you when they're drunk. But you say that that night the intimacy felt good and it felt like you had finally won. It's a shallow win. You are doing the same exact thing that I used to do, where I used to feel like if a man was sleeping with me, now we're together. This is proof that he loves me. It's proof that he thinks you look attractive enough to sleep with, and that's it. That's all it's proof of. Because you quickly found out that, yeah, he'll sleep with you. But I think that it revealed what truly bothered you. He won't verbalize his feelings. He won't commit. He won't do thoughtful things. He still blows you off. He's just not thoughtful of you. He's very careless when it comes to your feelings and the decisions that he's making in his own life. But you know, guys get sick of hookup culture themselves when they also realize that all it's doing is causing more harm and chaos. But even though he is acting very thoughtless, you're not walking away. Instead, you say that you are ratcheting up your dramatic behavior, dumping his things all over his porch and showing up wherever he's at to scream at him like, yeah, this guy diminishes you. This guy is not good for you. And all of these dramatic behaviors you're talking about, it is an attempt at a boundary that you are struggling to hold. And that's why having the boundaries in the first place is great before you go out meeting men. See, this situationship experience, as rotten as it feels now, if you can heed the advice of people like me or others that you respect, and you take the time to paint your nails and reflect on what went wrong, all of this will become an encyclopedia of knowledge that will only boost you in your relationships, because all you have to do is change the timing on these things. You'll never have to learn these lessons ever again, and you won't be doomed to repeat this cycle next time, and you're only 36. So it is not over for you, Nicole. And then you say if there were times he was being more consistent, you didn't want to ask him to be official because something told you that he would pull away. Yeah, you know the answer. It's just really hard to accept it. And then, all right, so then a little while after that, you said you found out that he got wasted and slept with someone else, and you felt like you just had to take it. You were devastated because you thought at this point, at least you were sort of dating. Nicole, don't sort of date anybody. Date them and define on paper what that means before you meet them. So my definition of dating is it's a process of getting to know people. And guys like Tony, who are charming 1 hour a week for bowling, you don't really know him. I believe on some level, we meet people right where we are. Now, you're someone who's got some messy boundaries, and Tony's showing up at your house in the night, drunkenly proclaiming his love. He's kind of a mess too. And when you guys first hooked up, you had both been dumped by someone else. And it is interesting that your first thought was he was out of your league just because he happened to look good. Well, Nicole, welcome to the other half, where we know attraction is not just about looks. We also need to take care of the inner half, because regardless of what someone looks like on the outside, it is so important to be able to see that someone who consistently disappoints you will continue to disappoint you. Someone who says they can't be with you, they're not going to be with you. And how can you expect loyalty from someone like this who's never done anything loyal when it comes to his relationship with you? That he won't even admit that it's a relationship. And you say that you were flooded with empathy when you found out from your friends that he was shattered when you blocked him. And I would say it's not just empathy. I think it released something inside of you that could finally say, this is a shred of proof that the man actually cares. Proof that you meant something rather than nothing. And it's still not good enough, but we do get to a point where we have been dished out so few crumbs that we accept something like this as a win. And you told him things were getting too messy and you need to go back now to being just friends. You said, you both said, I love you. And you told me that you know that Tony loves you and you know that he didn't mean to hurt you. Well, maybe he didn't mean to hurt you, but he sure didn't care if you got hurt. You said you're back to seeing him at bowling every week, and this is consuming your thoughts and your energy, and you feel so much shame. But all you want is a real relationship with a man that you found attractive. There is no shame in that. The embarrassment comes when we look back and we see ourselves chasing after someone who told us that it wasn't meant to be. And I know that you don't know what to do. You say that you love your friends and you love bowling, but Nicole, the issue is there are times in relationships where we are in so deep, we're almost powerless to not being hurt or emotionally regressing with every exposure to this person. And I tell people all the time, take a break for your own healing and mental health. Nothing has to be permanent. And you're going to find out who your friends are because they've had a front row seat to all of this. Explain to them why you need to take a break and ask them, please, not to mention Tony. When situations like this get this bad, where it's consuming you, big steps are required. You must commit to breaking the constant contact because that's what's keeping you in this. Be surrounded by people who support this decision. And I know you're going to have some anxiety about the league right now, but the emotional relief will be worth it. And after some time has passed, you can go back to a hobby that is only based on friendship, not a cat and mouse situation like, oh, if he doesn't give me a second look, I'm worth nothing. If you don't get oxygen, that's the pattern that's going to keep you stuck and unavailable to someone else that might actually treat you well. I know giving it up doesn't sound fair, but you getting away from this so that you can be the ultimate version of yourself it's more important right now. You sound like you have a full-blown addiction to this toxic dynamic. You're an active participant in this, so be willing to do whatever it takes. And it's just one season of your life. People don't get past addictions until they take the addiction seriously. So take it seriously and stop playing this game. Neither one of you are going to win. And you say that you are willing to do the work. That's great. But you don't know if Tony is willing to go down that road. Well, I do feel like Tony is someone who is hurt and he is hurting. And the drinking and the admitting that he loves you, he's got problems. But today, Nicole, I have painted my nails with a color for you that I have become rather attached to because I love the message in the name. It's called Traveling Light. And I picked this color special for you because the most beautiful part about your letter, and it's actually the most beautiful part about any letter I get like this, none of his problems have to be your problem. It's in your mind where you are trapped, not in reality. You can walk away from this. Tony wanted a no strings attached relationship. Well, he's got one, baby. He's not your husband. You guys don't have kids. There's no tangible means in which you are attached to this guy. It's all up here. And I know it feels impossible. And I remember when you said that he slept with someone else, you felt like you had to take it. But words like feels and felt, it's not anything written in stone. You can wake up tomorrow, or heck, you could turn off this video and poof. None of it has to be your problem anymore. Do you know how much people would be willing to pay for that kind of freedom? And that's another thing about hookup culture. After 6 weeks of sleeping with this guy, you could have gotten pregnant, and you didn't. And in that respect, you are incredibly lucky, because any woman who got stuck getting pregnant with a disloyal man who's never there when it counts, those women would tell you to do whatever it takes to get away from him. And a couple of rounds of bowling every week ain't worth the risk. You could slip up and you could go home with him one night and bam, you're stuck with him for the next 18 years. And no, I'm not being extreme, because this happens to women every single day. Text your friends. Draw an actual boundary and stick with it. And if they are true friends, they will understand that you need 1 season minimum space from this guy. Do not trigger your anxiety with the thoughts that you'll never bowl ever again, and commit to giving yourself oxygen from this temporarily. See how it feels. Because I think you'll find that something giving you so much anxiety will end up giving you so much power. It's only your anxious triggers telling you that this is going to be bad. Journal it. Look back and read what you did to save yourself. Meeting someone in a league and flirting and dating when you're both single is fine. But immediately hooking up with a guy you don't know and then assuming he's your boyfriend leaves you vulnerable to this exact situationship that you're writing to me about. Slow way down. Slow down with the drinking around guys. Do not hook up with guys. And don't be with guys who are only affectionate when they're intoxicated. Now, I just gave you 3 big boundaries that also were some of my boundaries to start your list. And these 3 alone will turn things around for you faster than you even realize. I know you like bowling, but it is time to split and spare yourself from any more of this guy's pain. From now on, you are traveling light. You can do this, Nicole. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live Nicole's life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting The Other Half.